Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot coming at you with the weekly comic book roundup. We've made it halfway through, so let's keep on trucking, kicking things off with Amazing Spider-Man number 35. Where we left off, Peter Parker had been infected with the sins of Norman Osborn, courtesy of Queen Goblin and Kraven the Hunter. As such, he tracked down Kraven, beat the holy hell out of him, buried him alive. Kraven, and then basically he went after everyone who was ever causing grief. Going after Norman Osborn. He pulled the plug on Tombstone's life support. And finally going after Mary Jane and Paul. Tracking them down to the Lincoln Tunnel. And Norman, however, had dug up Kraven, hoping that perhaps they could fix what had happened. And Queen Goblin showed up also to stop Peter. We open with the construction of the spear, or the reconstruction of the spear, now designed to remove the sins rather than put them back. We also have a brief interlude in Red Hook. There's been a mob shooting. Hammerhead masterminded it, but Sentiment is saying, we've been bickering with the owl over Red Hook for years. Everyone's gonna know it's us, but Hammerhead states that they'll think it was them. They're gonna tell Crime Master it was Diamondback. They're gonna tell Mr. Negative's it was Black Mariah, and before you know it, all that anyone's going to know is that someone's making moves. And if they want to keep their territory, they better be ready to fight for it. One of his henchmen points out that it sounds like a push for a war, and well, that's exactly what Hammerhead's doing. So Peter slugs it out with Queen Goblin. Doesn't take much to remove her from the fight, at least for a moment. Then goes after Paul, with MJ getting in between them. Queen Goblin returns. To the fight, but MJ pulls her off, and Peter very nearly drops. Peter does drop Paul from the bridge, but Kraven shows up, basically saying, hey, you've, this isn't you. Norman shows up, MJ saves Paul, Norman shows up, saying that Peter will be okay, adding that he enjoyed getting to know Mary Jane. Kraven and Peter fight again, though this time Kraven's smiling. It's funny that he's not going to go out the way his father did, and seeing as how the Spider gave Kraven his salvation of sorts. Well, Kraven returns the favor. Norman hits Peter with a spear. Peter apologizes to MJ, and Queen Goblin flies off. Kraven says he's going to bury the spear in the hole that was dug for him. And later, since Peter was wearing a version of the black costume, it's more being associated with Venom than Spider-Man, but he still has a guilty conscience, which he's going to deal with on his own. But and with Norman saying he was ready to give up his redemption for to save Peter, and then maybe even But he knew that if given the chance, his sins would come home. He laughs a little and catches himself, and begins to wonder if the goblin is returning. And that is where the issue ends. That was something. And yeah, the interlude with Hammerhead is the setup for the upcoming Gang War crossover. Moving on, though, to our next book, we have Superior Spider-Man Returns. So, years ago, back when I was ignoring Spider-Man books because of the events of One More Day, Doc Ock switched bodies with Spider-Man as his body was dying. Eventually, his body did die, and Peter's soul was basically kind of, was pulled into became kind of a guardian angel of sorts to, or more like conscience for Doc Ock, who is now calling himself the Superior Spider-Man. That said, Doc Ock kind of just said, "Hey, we're gonna, Parker's intelligent, with, and he helped make Peter briefly successful." Anyways, Peter returned to his body. Otto was returned to a healthy version of his old body, and yeah. However, something's been gnawing at Doc Ock, mainly relating to his time as Superior Spider-Man, so things that he can't remember. So he goes back to the Atomic Research Center that started it all. He was basically trying to recreate the experiment, or basically the same experiment he was working on in Spider-Man 2. But there was an explosion, slight miscalculation, his arms got fused, he became Doc Ock. We get a rehash of his days as Superior Spider-Man. And he finds a dodecahedron that he can't seem to penetrate. He has faint, vague memories of it. Then he wonders what he did. Well, so, flashing back to years ago, he stopped Sly from stealing some tritium. And also takes Sly's costume. With the aid of a living brain, Peter continued to work on Otto's experiment. He gets a lab assistant to help him, who eventually, with the aid of additional assistance, notes, try inverting it. And so, Doc Ock Superior Spider-Man does exactly that, taking credit for himself. And lab assistant, while Peter's out celebrating, does the experiment herself, and yeah, becomes a living supernova. And so, Superior Spider-Man locks her away in the impenetrable dodecahedron and leaves. Eventually reverting back to being Doc Ock. Eventually there was the split. Eventually Peter proper returned to his body and Doc Ock returned to his own body. In the present, Doc Ock manages to open the dodecahedron, and his former lab assistant shoots out, glad to be free, and wanting revenge on Spider-Man. Doc Ock kind of says, well, that didn't go as planned, but it went even better. And that is where the issue ends. And this will be spinning off into a new Superior Spider-Man series next month, I believe. Interesting issue. I was kind of worried maybe somehow Doc Ock would put his mind into a clone of Peter's body or something. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking was going to happen, but yeah. Either way, didn't go the way I anticipated. Moving on, though, to our next book, we've got Venom number 26. So where we left off, Black Widow was investigating a quasi-terror cell called No Name. And she had apparently befriended, sort of, a symbiote. So the issue opens with Black Widow interrogating an old friend of hers, Keith Walken, about No Name, which she's involved with. The symbiote that she's gotten has attacks No Name and eats his brain, including consuming his mind. Returns to Natasha, and she now has his memories. But elsewhere, Toxin gives Venom a call about the whole thing, asking questions, and then the Widow shows up inside the hive. And but Alchemax attacks the townhouse that Venom's staying at. He escapes, making his way to Widow's place. But it turns out that Keith Walken works at NSA, and basically the Widow is using her symbiote to control his body and continue gather more information on No Name. Venom shows up at her place and they discuss things. No Name hijacks all television frequencies. They have a hostage, a kid that was the victim of a chemical accident in New York, and that same chemical, he's trapped in a. Alchemax has denied any involvement. If they own up to it, the kid will be released. Toxin is supposed to be meeting with Widow and Venom as well, but there are No Name troops waiting for him, taking him down. And Toxin separates himself from Bren, and Venom and Widow go out in the hopes of saving him, though Bren is also taken along with Toxin. And that is where the issue ends. I kind of get the feeling it's going to be setting up for the upcoming Venom War story, which is kind of teased in the last few issues. Looking forward to that, really. So, moving on, though, to our next book, we've got Spider-Man India, number 5. Where we left off, Spider-Man had been captured by the Lizard, and his neighborhood was being flattened, though the residents were fighting back. Whip with a flashback to basically young Puppeteer getting his the great power, great responsibility speech from his uncle. But he wakes up in the Lizard's lab. They duke it out. When Gary Sahib shows up at in Spider-Man's neighborhood, that basically is a human wrecking crew. Meanwhile, Nani sends out some opposite, basically clear job by having open and on it by sending out social media posts from an official account that make the owner of the company look bad. But Gary Sahib manages to smash up part of the more of the neighborhood, and there's people are taking video of him fighting the residents of the neighborhood and posting them online. Spider-Man manages to take down the lizard, reverting him to its human form. Spidey goes out, fights Gary Sahib, defeats Sahib, but then manages to get Sahib to run away, but passes out. A week later, Nani shows up with a package to, hoping that Puppeteer can get it to Spider-Man. It's a new costume. And the two of them go and get a coffee together. Spider-Man tries on the new costume and takes it for a spin, and that was where the series ends. It was a fun book. I liked it. Spider-Man India is a neat Spider-Man variant. I figure that I'd like to see more of him in other Spider-Verse crossovers. Moving on, though, to our next book, we've got Star Wars Dark Droids, number 3. Where we left off in the overall story, the Scourge had decided to target Darth Vader on Mustafar, using some of Vader's, one of the droids that Vader had been going around with of late. Excuse me. But, of course, Vader managed to defeat the Scourge-possessed droids. And so, the Scourge continues to spread, however. C-3PO, who has been possessed by the Scourge, has arrived on Mustafar alongside a mouse droid, making their way into Vader's fortress. The Scourge has detailed plans from every Imperial database he can, and the Scourge possesses Dark Troopers. Scourge has also managed to convert a Star Destroyer to its own Star Destroyer. Continues to try and expand its way from metal into flesh, but realizing that cyborgs are much more are probably the best place to start. The possessed Dark Trooper droids arrive, pulling Vader from his box tank. But Ajax has arrived at the Scourge's vessel. He and his striking of droids infiltrate the ship, do what they can to stop the Scourge. Vader meditates on things and is able to dispel the Scourge invasion of his fortress on Mustafar. The Ajax group takes casualties and retreats, and somehow Scourge has figured out how to take over beings of the flesh. Ajax is the only member of his strike team to escape, including the ship he was using. We see 3 cyborgs: Lobot, Valance, and the one. What's her name? Afra's ex-girlfriend, all kind of becoming Scourgified. And that is where the issue ends. Things are getting very interesting here. I gotta say, I like the way they're doing the covers, at least for the the Dark Droids individual issues as they kind of look like movie posters, especially with credits underneath the title. It's a nice look. I dig it. Moving on, though, to our last book for the moment, we've got House of Slaughter number 18. Where we left off, the bait was ingratiating itself within his adopted family. But White Mask and Azure Mask are continuing to detente, trying to figure out what the deal is. The Blue Mask is trying to figure out what the deal is with the bait, while the White Mask is just like knows quite a bit and kind of points them in the right direction. You look at the various reports. Basic idea is that the reason all the hens upstairs in the house are clucking over the bait is that the hens know that a fox got into the fox got into the coop. At the bait's adopted home, temporary adopted home, he kills the chickens. At night, he slips out and talks with some of the hunters that are waiting. Apparently, they think someone's going to manifest. He has a memory of when he was attacked. His mother made some paper dolls, and is then promptly attacked. And the bait has his arms torn off by the monster. But his sister manages to escape as well, taking him along, and it seems that Ashley is, in fact, his sister. But there's a possibility that everyone at the house might just get killed. And that is where the issue ends. Though it does seem like possible that the monster they're waiting to manifest is in fact the bait's sister. But that's going to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Mastodon, Patreon, PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off saying, live long and rock hard.